People are absolutely crazy when it comes to kale. They either absolutely love it or they completely detest it. Me, on the other hand, I like to take the middle of the road approach. I stick it in a pot of boiling oil, make it into chips. Let's get to it. Hey everybody, my name is Dennis, and my wife and I are on a mission to help people realize that just because disease is common doesn't mean it has to be normal. You have a lot more control over the way you feel than you think you do. And part of that control is in eating good quality foods, especially when it comes to snacks, because most snacks are just complete garbage. Anyway, I got a pot of oil in front of me. As you can see, nice heavy set cast iron. It distributes the heat fantastically. Oh, I just love cast iron. And inside here, I have lard. That's right, it comes from pigs. I got my lard. It's a saturated fat. It holds up to heat fantastically. I like to stick to like 350 degrees or below when I'm frying. It's kind of the sweet spot for the lard. So I'm gonna start this oil heating, and then I've got just a couple things to talk about with the kale, how we're gonna prep it for the frying. So, as you can see, I've got the OXO Good Grip salad spinner, I think. I've talked about this before on my channel. I'll put the video in the description. Absolutely fantastic salad spinner. I've had it for years now. And as you can see, it has gone through some use, and you may say abuse. I'm sure that's what the salad spinner was thinking when it was dropped on the floor by accident. I'm sorry, salad spinner. You'll be all right. I still love you. Make sure it's dry. You don't want to be putting very wet kale into the fryer because it's going to create all sorts of splashing. There's a touch of water on here, but I'm not worried about that. My kale is chopped into little pieces. You can fry these as big as you like or as small as you like. It really doesn't change the end product very much. It's going to become tender and crispy. Let's get over to the fryer. We're going to fry this bad baby up. That's what the kids are saying these days, right? So we got our pot almost up to temperature. There's a little bit of smoke, but I think that's coming from the bottom of the burner, not from the oil itself. So I'm just gonna take a small piece of kale, toss it in there, kind of see how that oil's doing. And there's no immediate reaction, so that means the oil is not quite hot enough. We're gonna have to wait just another minute or two to get that oil hotter. If you're using a deep fryer that has a built-in thermometer and everything, you wanna be frying this like 325, right about in that range would be perfect. Now that we got some bubbles and some movement happening with that piece of kale, I'm gonna toss in just another test real quick. You start to see some immediate little bubbles coming around, some sizzling right away. That is pretty good. We're gonna go ahead and toss it in here. It could go a little bit hotter. What you really wanna monitor though is you don't want it hot enough that the oil starts smoking. That means that you have reached what's called the smoking point and you're gonna be oxidizing your oil. Not good for your health. So I'm just tossing this in here, and like I said, be careful about the splattering of water. That oil's gonna be splashing some. And we can go ahead and pile quite a bit in here. Even though it's not all submerged into the oil, it will cook down a little bit, and we can keep this mixing too. I'm gonna turn the temperature down so we don't overheat our oil. And as you can hear, it's definitely making a lot of noise. We hear some bigger pops, some little pops. If our oil is too hot, we're gonna get a lot of really big bubbles that kind of splash out at us. As you can see, I got my basket handy. This is so that I can not only stir, but this will be how we get the kale out after it's done frying. And our oil is doing just fine, so I'm gonna turn that temperature up just a touch again. I turned it down a little bit much on the first time, I think. I don't know how well you can see it on the camera, but some of this kale is starting to turn a dark green. Look at that rich color in that leaf right there. And keep in mind that if you do a large batch like we did, it's gonna take longer than if you do a small batch. The small batch is really just gonna be a couple minutes. You may also notice that the batch has really shrunk down in size. We've lost a lot of the water weight from the kale, and now it's all kind of floating on the surface instead of being piled on top of each other. So as you can see, a lot of the bubbles have slowed down. There's even some spots where I don't really see any bubbles at all. It's mostly just from these bigger stems. We don't want it to burn or caramelize. We want to pull it out before that. And I think that this is just about a perfect time to pull it out. And oh yeah, look at that. That is perfect. It's really light and fluffy. It's not actually, or light and crispy, I guess. I wouldn't really describe it as fluffy at all. Yeah, you hear that sound? That's a good sound right there. That is what we're looking for. So I'm just gonna get as many of these crumbs out, the little pieces. Perfect. The only required seasoning for these kale chips is gonna be salt. I'm gonna do a little unrefined sea salt on here, just a light sprinkle. It's deceiving how much content we have. We don't actually have a whole lot of kale chips, so we don't want to do a ton of salt. It's easy to oversalt them. Just a light sprinkle. I'm just doing a little toss here, get that mixed in. All right, take a little try here. Very good. I could use a touch more salt. Yeah, really good. Now take a look at the difference in color between these cooked ones, very rich green. This one's a lot brighter green. This is what you're going for. But we've got some other seasoning as well. Some of my favorites on here, just a tiny bit of cayenne pepper. Give it a kick, that really complements the kale very well. A little bit of garlic if you want to do some garlic on there. Parmesan cheese maybe, sprinkle that on there. And you want to add the seasonings like as soon as possible once you get the kale chips out of the fryer, while the oil is still warm and glistening on there. It helps the seasonings distribute more evenly and stick to the kale chips. Let's take a little taste. Oh, that's pretty good. That is very, very good. Well, my wife is behind the camera glaring at me, ready to to pounce. I'm sure she would enjoy these. So in the meantime, what are you gonna do with that big pot of oil that you just heated up and made all these kale chips? Well, what else are you gonna do with it? You got it there. You may as well make some French fries. And I show you how to do that in this video here, not just the cutting, but also share some tips for how to best prepare those fries and to check to see when they're done and everything like that. So I've already showed you how to do the kale chips. Check out those French fries and also check out my Twitter and subscribe to the YouTube channel because you love my videos. You may as well do it. You got here all the way to the end. Now subscribe. My Twitter handle is Dennis Scratch, link in the description. And yeah, subscribe for some kitchen tools, nutritious cooking, and healthy living videos. That's about it. That good? Here we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, they're really good.